Just Google a lifetime of Shiva, Vishnu and Brahma and spend at least half an hour to read about different points of view in different sources. Unfortunately, internet is full of some fanatic concepts, and each one considers itself as the only true one, so it's better to see the issue from different angles and have variants of the answers. Then, try to check it up on your own experience. It's possible for yogis if more or less adequate efforts are applied. Fine. Now let's talk about your body, your energetic body, some theory and those things we wanted to discuss yesterday after the first practice. The problems with your legs you face when you sit. The pain is going up, and if your pain reached 20 points yesterday, today you feel 30, tomorrow you will do 40. You're stroking your legs saying, "My pores, this is so hard for you." But this is very good. Of course, it sounds strange. You practice yoga and the problems are activated. But unfortunately, there is no growth without this activation. There is no evolution till then you go through all the problems you have created for yourself. There is such a theory that is based on self-experience and well known among my friends who have been practicing yoga for at least 15 years. Every more or less adequate yoga teacher meets disciples after some time. We're social people, we can say I'm Guru number 1, he's Guru number 2, and so on. And disciple thinks he learns from us something or tries to learn something. And after some time, when the relationship is built and you know his lifestyle, because it's a good friendship, and some statistics was collected. The statistics tell that those who have had a lot of abortions or such careless relationships, can't stay in yoga because they face certain problems which don't let them go on. The problems appear and a man doesn't know how to solve it because they have no instruments to solve it. And now I'll try to tell you about this conception, why this happens. Let's imagine a human body. Sorry for the illustration, I'm not a painter. I'll paint as a scheme. So here is a body, a head, hands, and here is the most interesting. If I paint just energetic manifestation, it will look differently from how you are used to see it physically. From the energetic point of view, legs of the majority of our contemporaries which live in wealth look like this. Such massive things like a robot has. This is the reality. Only in the case a man can go through his life and does not accumulate a negative karma, his legs or Apanavayu look more or less normally. There are 5 kinds of energy which are in charge of a person. Those which have an influence on a destiny and a karma, or better say on their manifestation. The way it is manifested depends on a man's outlook. How fast or slow your karma comes depends on some circumstances. Karma in legs is the biggest problem for a yogi on a proper level. From about a navel to footsteps. So, who can it be? Perhaps it's a cattle breeder who raises animals and then slaughters them. As he lives at the expense of someone suffering, his karma and thus Apanavayu looks like this, of this size. In other words, he has a great amount of Apana Vayu. Or those people who live on Muladhara chakra level. Remember me drawing it yesterday? The person who feels anger has his energy flowing out from his Muladhara. Yesterday we talked about yoga teacher burdens. Let's imagine one practices a lot in Aura yoga camp, for example. Then he comes back to his beautiful town and in 2 days his legs stop being flexible. Those who were in the camp last year must have noticed that you came in one state, but you left the camp in a different state. It happens because of energy exchange between you and other people. And these people who come to you come for a particular reason. Your mirror comes to you. A problematic person who comes to you and brings a problem as per you is only your reflection, because any other person you can meet, more positive, more enlightened, but nowadays there are a few enlightened and positive people in your society for some reason. Apart from a murder, all the excretory processes increases Apana Vayu. When you go to the toilet once a day, or some may go there a couple of times, every time your Apana Vayu turns on, the energy flow intensifies. During the life, you push it down and legs become heavier. This is the reason of stiff joints. While the energy below is strong, the legs want to be flexible. Apana Vayu should be turned up and you'll have less here and more energy here. Because there is Samana Vayu above Apana Vayu, the energy that brings some problems to some people. Here is Apana Vayu and here is Samana Vayu. If you have ever experienced problems with the food volume you eat, be sure you have a success. Apana Vayu managed to go upward as now you become a spiritual person. That's why your Samana Vayu is increased. You can eat 5 dishes instead of 3 that you could eat before. That is problem of Samana Vayu because it becomes stronger. No matter how much you eat, you will want more. In my life, I have seen really astonishing things. If the person starts to practice yoga intensively, his munches become incredible. I won't even give you an example of how much one person can stuff himself. What if their practice is very intensive, but I don't want to eat at all? Perhaps you haven't already reached it or passed through it already. It's complicated to say. Maybe it is in balance in you somehow. There are many reasons. But usually people who have a strong energy should also face with a good appetite. This is very good, because the person at least has some energy, and if he makes some effort, the energy can be transformed and goes up to the next level. The role of Padmasana is to redirect Apana Vayu. The energy starts to flow upwards instead of downwards. Then the life energy and activity increase thanks to your own Apana Vayu. What causes difficulties for others is ideal for a practitioner. An advanced practitioner says, "Come to me." No, not to me, I'm just joking. So, next is Pranavayu. From merely nose to the chest, there is the energy which is accumulated with the help of pranayama. This kind of energy is in charge of your activity fullness. Some have more of it, others less. Pranayama helps increase your Pranavayu. And above your head is Udana Vayu. It is in charge of human thought. For its positive trance, basically, it is a good energy. If someone tries to turn Apana up, he activates all the energies one by one. And finally, Udana Vayu should be increased, the head should shine, in theory. Only few can reach it, because as soon as energy appears, you remember we draw a jar, which was difficult to fill up. On every level, a person will have certain holes, which will help him feel many beautiful things, which he has never experienced before. This is all surrounded by Vyana Vayu, the so-called aura, which also surrounds all kinds of energies and sustains the balance. The approach has been verified by many people. I've heard a lot of it and saw so many proofs that it is like an axiom for me. If you have pain in your legs, think about your Apana Vayu. This is good, the process has begun. Because there are people who are never sick and they feel good, but on the contrary, it means everything is bad. They still haven't started their journey. They still stay where they usually are. The problem of Apana Vayu is the reason for a yogi to feel stiffness and discomfort at a certain stage. You are all adults, and you happen to do some things. Know the conception. Try to experience it. Yesterday you practiced yoga and had one state of the body. Then you had sex, and after some time went to practice again. Note what happened to your legs. Then you will experience the Apana Vayu theory. I recommend you to try out the experiment. Tomorrow morning we'll discuss it. I'm just joking. Because of sex, Apana Vayu increases a lot. This is the fact, which is unfortunately people do not take up. That's why those who are attached to the pleasures of the lower senses have Apana Vayu being in charge for many body processes. As the experience shows, it is very complicated for people with a strong apana to come to yoga. Unfortunately, this is a big problem of those who have already produced some karma. From this perspective, we can't say it's bad. On the contrary, it's good. So, if the person has already got karma, Apana Vayu serves as a protection. Until you experience the problems that are in your legs, you won't be able to develop any further. There is a good movie, Kindzadza, and there is a remarkable scene in it. Two characters' spaceship crashes into another blue planet inhabited by creatures that have little wings. They wanted to live on this planet, but the creature said, "You know, you can't live here because you stink, so go away and let us live happily and honorably." Unfortunately, it is true. These people who have strong negative karma will feel the influence of this karma on their worldview. Disregarding their intention, these people will differ from those who do not have this karma. You may believe it or not, but once you have chosen yoga, you will face it many times. That's why, my friends, if you face some problems, when practicing yoga alone, it means you face the reality that may come to you tomorrow or day after. You see my point? So, Apana Vayu is responsible for all the problems which can happen to you in the future, but they can be more tragic. You prevent the problems you might face in advance, and all these problems are in your legs. Moreover, in terms of Ayurveda, a competent doctor never prescribes pills to his patients on the very first visit. But first of all, he examines the body and stiffness of joints, And there is a theory that has been proved as right many times. There are 3 zones in human legs which are in charge of different kind of karma. They are knees, hips, and shins, including foot arch. They are considered to be 3 different worlds, 3 zones which correspond to your future incarnation. Problems with knees may correspond to animal world incarnation, so knees accumulate the karma which will influence future incarnation. The zone of hips is responsible for the world of pretas. Pretas are hunger spirits, they're creatures who have bodies but have no means to satisfy any desire. According to descriptions, there are planets made of stones where biological creatures have no water, no plants, and suffer from hunger. Definitely you have seen horrible pictures of children from Africa with bellies big from hunger, who have no food or water and suffer a lot. We can see this kind of karma in action. There is no need to tell you about the world of animal. You have seen one of its representatives running over here. Everybody is practicing yoga, but this fellow is preoccupied with more important things. If you think that incarnation into the world of animals is just a fairy tale, you're wrong, my friend. And for many people in our time, it's much better to fall into the world of animals than into some lower world. Because those people who have even more problems fall into the hell. Feet accumulate a hell karma, the heaviest karmas. Do you understand why? Even if a person has an injury, it can happen by an accident, of course. Yes, an accident is a signal from the place he'll get to. That's why he should do something to prevent it in the future. Some adequate people told me about the legs and a conception of all these things I'm trying to explain you now. 15 years of observation made me sure that the conception of Apanavayu works well. If you have problems with your legs, I recommend you to bear now and today. Understand, all I'm telling you, what's my gain in it? Dear friends, practice asceticism. You understand that I'll get nothing but the problems. You understand why I'll get problems? Because when you bear pain, whom will you think of? And if there are 20 people thinking at the same time, the skin goes off your body. It's quite interesting. Try to treat and face this reality in this way. You will not be able to avoid the problems you face. Even if you reincarnate into a better world, your presence there will depend on the amount of tapas you have gained. If you had time to gain tapas, you will spend it there. So welcome the problems and difficulties you encounter on your way. They are your reflection and your karma. You will just get what you need. Some of you sit on your yoga mats in the morning, breathing and trying to change the energy. Another part of you snores in the tents at that time. They have right, but the day has passed. Some of you who slept in the tent, others who were breathing, sitting on the rag, and it seems that it is so unusual about it, a man sleeps. But what kind of energy will they have by the end of the day? Will it be the same? Will it become equal? No, it won't be equal. Yes, it will become equal to some extent only, not more than 10%. If a man's life is hard and he has to get up early at 4 a.m. to start practicing at 5 a.m., it's bad. Ego may dislike it, but still, the result will differ day by day. It is a fact. Because the person who makes an effort changes his karma every day. The one who doesn't make any efforts, unfortunately, doesn't change a thing. And perhaps when he has a will to change, it will already be too late. He will be told, no, it's time for us now. Also, the idea of reincarnation should also be mentioned. I have already told you about chakras and varanas. A person's reincarnation depends on the chakra he uses. There is a definite prescription when a person reincarnates. Chakra acts as a portal to another reality, and every chakra corresponds to a particular world. There is a special classification. If a soul lives through the Muladhara chakra, where do you think a person reincarnates? Why into an animal? No, it goes to the hell, to the purgatory, where a person gets cleansed. If you compare to a laundry, the number of chemicals applied to this soul will differ, so the hell is also divided into several categories. Slight laundry. One will just get you dusted off and be brought through an emery. Did you get it? Yes, I got it, let me go. Okay, now you can go away. And you go to get the meaning of life. And there are people who don't understand it at once, and they have to get through rougher emeries. There is a term fragmentation or low-level fragmentation in computers. It means that a soul is so sinful that it can be cleansed easily and has to undergo the whole cycle of purification. And only after it one becomes clean. And the biggest problem is to start everything all over again. You'll have to climb up, starting from the mineral kingdom. The same idea Alexei Vasilyevich Trikhlebov describes in his lections. They will have to accumulate all the experience once again in order to become more adequate. Just imagine how much time it will take to make the whole way from a stone to at least a human being, not mentioning gods. It is enormous. That's why it's bad to stubbornly store your karma, because you will get it all full scale and will only suffer more. Try to keep this idea in mind and just take it on trust. If you are an adequate person and have enough karma to learn it, you will see the examples of how the idea works in your life. I already provided an example of sex and how joints get stiff after that. But there is another method. It's called kunjal. Write it down. This is a practice of cleansing a stomach by drinking of 5 liters of warm, clean water mixed with salt. 1 tablespoon for 2 liters, so 2.5 tablespoons for 5 liters, but 5 liters are not a constant. There are people who are able to drink 50 liters when they have the urge to. You start to gradually drink the water around 700 milliliters or 1 liter. But I have seen a man who could drink 5 liters in one gulp. He was a giant former airborne trooper. It seemed the water in him didn't go into the stomach but dropped somewhere right beneath it. But for ordinary people, the norm is usually half a liter or 700 milliliters. So you drink the water and you feel that you are full and you feel like puking. So you go somewhere and vomit it. It can be next to a bush even, and you let this water go, then you drink another part of it, and do the same thing for several times. When you are over, you can start practicing yoga. You'll be surprised what happens to your body. It seems that you've just cleansed your stomach, but you feel lightness in your legs, and you can twist and bend them easily. How does it correlate? Your energy will grow. Every time you vomit water, the energy goes up and grows.
Fasting once a month is rather useful. Buddhists call it upasadha. In yoga, it's called ekadashi. One day a month, you will not have any problems. But what exceeds one day depends on a person's practice. It is difficult to tell whether you'll make it. It will depend on your social life. I know that if a person fasts for 15 days, he cannot work even after the 5th day. He's just sitting and that's all. Or at best, he's lying down. That's what I have seen. If you're just lying on a sofa for the whole day, consuming electricity, and your efficiency for the others is next to the zero, I doubt that much fasting is going to be more useful than a simple waste of time. I'm telling it for those fanatics who, by means of asceticism, are trying to practice. Every adequate person should do something for other people. If you do not do it, if you do not help others, you're only losing. You just don't know about it yet. If every day you do something for others, you will evolve. Do you get what I mean? If you read different books, you will understand that there are different stages of yoga. There is Raja Yoga and Yoga of serving in the end. Dedication and service to the world around is considered to be the highest manifestation of a person's life. Pay your attention to the 4 categories of people being divided into in the ancient times. There are Brahmins, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas and Shudras. How do you think they differ? If they are manifested on low chakras, higher and the highest, what qualities do you need to possess to be, for example, on a Brahmin level? Right, unselfishness. So you need to be a person who doesn't think about himself, his problems, and tries to focus on the problems of the world, or at least the problems of people around him. Okay, we will start from the lowest level and it will be more obvious for you. What qualities do you need to possess to be on the Shudra level? To my greatest regret, they live not even for themselves, but more likely for larvas. Their physical body is a temporary location of energy, and they have numerous connections to waste that energy. When a toper gets a penny, he will immediately buy a drink on it. A drug addict will make a drug injection, and so on, so on. The next, it goes Vaishya level. They are the people who live at least to serve their family, which is everything for them if they are not fanatics. They will do everything only for their own families and will not try to do anything for a neighbor. That's why they are on this level. If the Vaishya lives many lives like this, then what are the facts of the past? I don't want to use a term historical facts deliberately. What did tell us the facts of any nation which had adequate Vaishyas? That at every turn some spiritual or moral morons appeared who damaged the ordinary positive-minded people's life. If you have been living for some time in our country, you know how many problems this country has had. There is always someone who causes difficulties, and on a certain stage, a Vaishya becomes aware that something is going wrong. He wants it all to be good, as in family, clan, people, but instead he only gets beaten up again and again, and his things are taken away, and everything is destroyed. Why? And he will understand that he needs to think not only about himself and his own things. He should get up to protect his native land, for example, and he becomes a kshatri. Is that clear? He who becomes a kshatri only fights and struggles constantly and wishes to end it all. Are you getting me? His way of thinking changed from everything is for me, for me, for me, or for my family, my wife, my children. It turns into another way when he achieves a higher level of consciousness and he starts thinking at least about his homeland. What is the quality of Anahara chakra? Do you remember? My dearest, I love you all so much. Kshatri does not look at things through the concept of love. He uses his brain. Love is the last thing he thinks about. Is that clear? So when Kshatri fights and fights, he questions himself. Why? We have defeated the Reds, and then the Whites appeared. And again troubles came, and then the Whites got defeated, and the Blues came, and then the Greens. His hands are covered with blood all his life. And he thinks, when will it end? That's a chaos. What should I do to stop cutting down heads? Because evil is international. It is not within only one particular person. Evil is as poisonous as the flu or sore throat. Today someone is ill. Tomorrow another can become infected if he approaches the first person closely. Then a kshatri wonders, something is wrong. I'd better be engaged in preventive measures. You should share knowledge among people so that they won't be immoral. Everything that I mentioned, the problems of being kshatri, how they struggle for the truth, is all about limitations. But until you experience it, you won't understand why it is limitation. You will still think that a kshatri is just, he fights for justice, but justice is a double-edged sword. If such a kshatri develops himself life after life, on a certain stage, he will be able to become a Brahmin when he shares his life energy with people. Imagine a person who leads a life of a kshatri, and again he protests, fights, gives bread to people, gives them justice and approval, and he's simply good. A Brahmin eliminates the very cause of it. He cures people mentally and spiritually by giving them knowledge so that they don't become evil. An adequate kshatri becomes a Brahmin to eliminate the cause of the world's systematically appearing problems. Now, let's get back to the beginning. The direction of a person degradation goes from up to down. The more a person wants for himself, the lower his final level is. It is a very slow, stage-by-stage process. You know a saying, give someone an inch and he will take a mile. The more a person concentrates on his own needs, the worse results he'll get. When a person starts to move up, this means asceticism. He refuses from his personal happiness in favor for greater happiness later. To live for others is an axiom that can be found in any kind of scriptures. Only if you follow this rule, you will live life after life confidently. An unselfish person feels good in any world he reincarnates into, and an egoist faces problems anywhere. You may ask how to manage to run with a hare and hunt with hounds. Probably it is possible for some different stages of evolution. I don't tell it's bad. Why a Shudra remains a Shudra? Why does he always find himself in a trouble? Why an alcoholic becomes an alcoholic? If he made a drunkard of someone, it will come back to him. There is so-called privileged, top-ranked people in this world. Due to their belief in some concepts, they are sure that a law of karma does not exist for them. And they stay assured that everything turns good for them. But to my great regret, this hardly is going to happen to them. There are certain instances that redirect and re-educate such people. But those who do not observe the law of karma are going to get what they deserve.
Понятно? If
you want to evolve, try not to abuse this law and bring maximum positive energy to others. On different stages of development, the concepts of good and evil differ. It's not a problem. Do as you would be done by. And try to make something for others every day. You can make a diary of good deeds. If nothing has been done, you put minus. Next day, you look for opportunities. If one has been done, then you put a plus. This is how your future will be created.
Вопросы, предложения. Она не выходит, она активируется, потому что когда человек начинает выплескивать через эти чакры энергию, то апана, соответственно, усиливается еще. Не могу сказать, так это или нет. Я не думаю, что им даже дадут шанс.
In ancient times, a Shudra was strictly prohibited from practicing yoga under pain of death.
До смерти. Ну, потому. Хороший вопрос.
It's a good question. Many years ago, I read a story about Rama.
You
must have heard of it, still I'll repeat. 870,000 years ago, the planet was ruled by Rama. The people lived somewhere in the north. This period is even reflected in the vocabulary of some Russian northern people. Rama is believed to have been ruling for 12,000 years. During this time, the world was full of welfare. Nature was in harmony with people. People lived honestly, and nature treated them in the same way. The weather was always fine. It rained only at night. A day ended, the sun set, people went to sleep, and that's when rain started. The rain moves the dust, and next day was again full of brightness. One day, a Brahmin lost his child. It was unthinkable that a child could die on a planet while Rama ruled. It was absurd. There was no child mortality. It was a fortunate time. The Brahman brings the body of his dead child to Rama and says, Rama, there are problems on your planet. Rama responds with why, and the Brahman says, my child died because of you. There is something wrong in the way you rule. And Rama mused upon it. According to the scriptures, the Brahman was right. If some misfortune occurs, then it is a blame of the ruler. Rama calls for a white man and flies over the country he rules. And in a remote land, he finds a man who made a fire, tied himself to a tree with a rope, and is hanging upside down, breathing in the smoke to kill himself. And this is an asceticism. This terrible practice is sometimes performed for certain things, but It's very rare and only a few can afford it. Just imagine how determined this person was in killing himself to achieve something. When Rama saw him, he asked the man only one question: "What caste do you belong to?" And the man answered, "He's a Shudra." Hearing this, Rama immediately cut his head off. It took me 6 years to understand why Rama did it. I couldn't get it and thought Rama was mad. What was wrong with a man hanging on the tree and breathing in smoke? But actually, there was sense in his actions. The man had already accumulated his bad karma. He was a Shudra and should have been working and serving for all his life. If you are on such level of development and energy only passes through you, then if you achieve any higher level of state, energy will continue passing through you and will reassert itself sooner or later. A Shudra was prescribed to serve and work hard. Only in this case he could evolve. Only hard work could dignify a person. This idea was realized in the Vedic society for such people. No matter whether such a person is going to level up his energy, he will hardly make it. He will have many problems that will systematically take away his energy. Any other questions? Is the rise of unpleasant sensation in the body, not just in legs, during the practice related? Yes, it is. Now it's time for another subject of the lecture, which is energetic channels. And you have to remember that there are 3 main channels. Sushumna reaches the Brahmarana and splits into 2 parts. One proceeds to Sahasrara chakra, another one does to Ajna chakra, and the channel comes from Muladhara. Two other channels, Ida and Pingala, go along with it, which are usually pictured this way.
Да, вот до сюда, до Аджни. И, соответственно, другой канал, хотя он, конечно, не синий,
Ida is shown in white, and it's responsible for ignorance, and Pingala being a hot channel in red.
И Ида его рисует белым, потому что за невежество отвечает.
As per my inner observations, the reality differs from the picture. The channels are not flat, but dimensional, like a screwball.
То есть виток над витком находится. И они, соответственно, если с одной стороны выходит резьба,
if the screw exits from one side, rounding the chakra and enters from another side, they are kind of switching. I'm saying this so that you don't get confused feeling the energy flow. When you get through certain problems, remember the following concept. Let's say a person is addicted to sexual pleasures. His inner world is working on throwing away the energy. It goes up till Swadhisthana chakra and flows out. Recollect a melioration system, special trenches made for a garden watering. Inner channels are similar to the trenches when they run wild, when the water cannot pass.
Примерно то же самое происходит с внутренними каналами.
If a person experiences a systematic energy leakage, everything above that point almost dries up. The energy could have gone up through Sushumna, but due to some problems and narrowed channels, the energy will flow side alone, influencing the feeling and many more other things. More often, you can feel your body shaking. I'm not joking at all. Your body can actually be shaking when the energy cannot find the way up. How can the channel be widened? It's possible. Firstly, if you stand it, it will find the way eventually. Secondly, if you can find an ace master and communicate with him regularly, then your problems can be solved at his cost. What will happen to him, that's his karma. If an idiot approaches him, that's his reflection. He will favor him and hug him gently, hiding his tears. I'm joking. That's one of the options. Keep in mind that that's also your karma. Another advanced young man with a big ego, being an absolute zero, will come to you with a handful of problems, and all these problems will be brought up to you, and then you'll have to experience the same. Yeah, Kriya Yoga helps if you cannot just stand, but also practice cleansing techniques. Then gradually you'll break through your channels one day. Even Kundala I have told you about is a great thing. It's a tool to cure many illnesses, but one must never overuse it. It's necessary to practice Kundala not more than thrice a week. Do not overdo it. There was a case of a girl who had experienced the benefits of Kundala and got addicted to it, because it lends wings and life is beautiful. So she had practiced Kundala every day for 1.5 years. Kundala, 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 and she got a metabolic disorder. With a Kundala practice, your mucus is removed, so your body has to produce it all the time. Naturally, she got some certain problems afterwards. I don't know her in person, and I don't know what happened in the end. I just heard about her quitting the job for some time, as the rehabilitation process was very much complicated. That's why it's better to use it not often, but when once in need. Nevertheless, you can use it every day for a week to gain some experience in the beginning so that your body gets used to it, and you could do it whenever you feel really bad. The main point of Kundala is to be used when your body doesn't want to, and your friend cheers you up. Listen, you are screwed, go and do Kundala. And you respond, no, I don't want to, I want. Do it. And he gives you a hand and encourages you. And if you manage to do Kundala, then you'll get a benefit and understand why it's been recommended. But it has to be useful only when truly needed. Another benefit of Kundala is unrequired love relief. That's when a person is pining, withering in general, and driving to a suicide if nothing else. It helps a lot. I know 2 records of my acquaintances. One of them used 50 liters when she had to choose either jump from the window or Kundala. As one couldn't live like that, accordingly, she opted Kundala, 50 liters. She must have used 50 liters a couple of times. In short, she let pass 5 buckets through. Then she could live in you for some time. I was sure it's the limit. It turned out not to be. Another one surpassed it all. She used 200 liters at one go, because a tuberculosis was suspected, and a teacher from India said that it's possible to be saved by means of, for example, 200 liters. She managed to replace that with energy, and she got saved. It also has a good effect. Still, one shouldn't overdo it. All cleansing techniques, all kriyas ought to be in the arsenal of a yogi. Shank Prakshalana is considered as a good tool for Apanavaya, all the problems of Svadhisthana chakra. There are people with sexual addictions, as people say it helps. I'm not an expert in this. Naturally, it helps some people in some cases. I have never faced, so I don't know. They help clean up your inner world. How can it be littered, as we know? What you have to do to stay strong and then be switching as a crazy man. To live a life of a so-called ordinary man, satisfied, fulfilled, discos on Saturdays, watching TV, listening to FM broadcasts, in your car, and be sure that your future is guaranteed. It's good, right? Sickness is considered to be a sign of energy's attempt to get through Anahata chakra that causes the feeling as if you want to puke. The same energy tries to get through Anahata. If you feel different, energy flows in different parts of your body. Well, that's whom you've been born. You cannot change it, let it flow. No one has died because of this. I just know many examples of people's attempt to practice some intensive energetic stuff. It leads to a great agony experience for some time. And amazing things can happen to the body, especially if the person is on the Swadhisthana chakra level, which is ordinary for a normal human being. Swadhisthana is considered cool. Some may say that it's even necessary to love everybody. Moreover, to continue a family line, that's the most important in our life. I have been a witness of people's struggle when skin raises, as Swadhisthana chakra is responsible for a skin element. And if a human faces a problem, amazing things can happen. I'm not going to even share. Unfortunately, cleansing is not a pleasant experience. It's easy to create problems, but it's very difficult to stand them later, and to my great regret, not all can manage it. Back to the channel. So, there are Ida and Pingala. Theoretically, the energy is supposed to flow all the time. Just keep in mind that we can talk about different types of energy. If it's Kundalini, then, as we have just mentioned, upon rising up, the energy pushes out some problems, and the man is in such an agony that he shouts his head off. If it's a usual vital energy, which is produced within the body and also can rise, I've heard it can rise while it's coming up, passing through different chakras, activating them, and depending on the matter of the rise, the person experiences inexpressible feelings. Sushumna. What yogis try to achieve is collecting all the energies in Sushumna. But it's extremely difficult. To achieve it, one has to practice yoga more consciously. If you want to gather the energy in Sushumna, you need to combine two highly compatible activities. From one point of view, you have to be a proper yogi, to practice well. From another point of view, you have to benefit the society to the maximum. And that is very difficult. It's a way too easier to burrow yourself and breathe there, right? But to stay in the society and still practice yoga is extremely difficult. Only if you can prove the gods that you are not an egoist and your yoga practice is not self-oriented, then you'll be helped overcome certain obstacles that will certainly appear in your way as trials. Not even trials, but a protection from you, a fool. From a selfish human being to guard him from producing new karma in a full meaning of the word. There is a system to achieve that. That's my recommendation to all of you friends. You may think, oh no, again he's talking about his favorite topic. Of course, I'm recommending a yoga teaching if you are a young person and can be occupied with the teaching. That's my recommendation. I'm producing competitors, you understand this? Let's imagine you all have become yogis. Unemployment has been created. Who's going to work hard then? Unfortunately, those who work hard are millions as many as those who can practice yoga. No bread on the dining table, as our grannies say, can never happen. Are you going to earn by yoga? So there is no problem at all. I just know that yoga teaching is the fastest way to self-knowledge. But only if you become an adequate teacher, meaning your motivation does not lie within earnings, irradiation, mystic experiences, but you can see the problems of the world around you, stand up for better changes through the changes of the human himself, instead of violence, as some may suggest. If you learn some esoteric concepts, you will face with an interesting fact. All current religions, be it Buddhism, Hinduism, yoga, or even early Christianity before it got cut off, say almost the same things, that the world is the projection of how you see the reality. It as every human forms out the world. So, if the outlook is changed, everything is changed around you. The world can definitely be changed. That's the most adequate way to change the world around. Is it clear? Why so? If you can teach, I don't recommend you to quit and become a yoga teacher. Try to teach for your friends first. Don't leave your main occupation, and you hardly can earn your living during the first year. Only if you are a well-to-do, as per your karma, but there are just a few these kind of people. I mean, a person who can dedicate himself to yoga because he doesn't have to earn his bread and butter. Due to a business or something else, just a few of them. As a rule, people start off slowly. They can combine the main occupation with teaching. Once the level on which they can earn a living by teaching is reached, then one can be engaged in teaching only. I earnestly insist on trying out this topic in your life, as each of us has different experience in our past lives. Teaching is the level of a Brahmin, so you have to manifest the qualities of a Brahmin in this life. You have no idea why it's so much important for each of you. If you manifest the concept of Vaishya, for instance, living for your family only, you'll face the problems of Vaishya on a regular basis. It's interconnected. If you try to enjoy the life as Shudra does, the problems of Shudra will wait for you. Accordingly, be a Kshatri and get the problems of Kshatri. And only Brahman, if he's an adequate one, doesn't have problems, as he doesn't live for himself but tries to live in akarma, in a full meaning of the word. There is no other category that can stay within akarma. In this case, my aim is to motivate you for teaching. As we are well mixed deep inside, we need the personality that has been Brahmin for many years to come to the surface. Despite you being a man or a woman, it doesn't matter now. Same things. Arms are believed to accumulate certain karma that influences your reality perception. Remember the picture of Cheburashka from behind. they wear arms. Shoulders are considered to gain the karma of asuras. That's the karma of kshatri. Those who fight, compete, defend, argue, have stiff shoulders. When it comes to hands, it's a controversial point. I cannot interpret as I haven't collected enough of statistics. It's useless to discuss from scriptures, say. I have gained the experience that shoulders are connected to fight. There is another feature I want to share with you. Brahmaranda, which is between Ajna and Sahasrara, plays one special role. It's your screen of thoughts, the place where you see the images popping up from your inner world. Clear? Some images can appear during meditation, but they get there is for a particular reason. Do you know how a projector operates? There is a lamp, and there is a slide and something, and light reflects something on the screen. Our intellectual device, or the device that can see images, works on the same principle. There are different parts of information accumulated on different levels of our inner world. If one says that this or that chakra is clean or dirty, it means how much of experience is collected here or there. What a person sees on Brahmaranda while practicing yoga if he has stayed on Swadhisthana chakra for many lives, something like that, yeah. Accordingly, if one has stayed on Manipura, images will be connected to food or greed. Anahata level contains sinful images like, he doesn't love me anymore, and pictures of love, tenderness, losses, etc. Accordingly, people on Vishuddha level will think, will take it in arrears and other five attributes. Clear, right? Type of images will be dependent on the working chakra. This is called a froth of the mind. And it's better if you see it while meditating. It's less tragic for the world around you. A bad thing is better to be got through in your mind than in the reality.
Да ладно. Ну, значит, хорошо.
Then it's good. You cannot break anything by standing it. It's impossible. Then reduce it. I'm saying the beginner is not supposed to experience a pain. Discomfort level is to be reached and tolerated. Nothing can happen to you on that level. As filmmakers indicate in titles, no trees were harmed in making this film. Here you are keeping up an asana, standing the discomfort. No living creatures but your ego were harmed. There is much a metaphor, which is not very tolerant and juvenile, but when you were kids, you might have noticed such a thing. Once an adult comes and sets a kid on the right direction, the life becomes better. You know what I'm talking about? About naughty kid who becomes good at once. Same thing with yoga. If you practice asanas, foolishness can only fall apart. No negative consequences. No one will be harmed, and you are the one who will benefit. You'll become more patient and calm. Great. Well, friends, it's time to sum up. We have considered your body. I tried to explain you why standing discomfort and asceticism are necessary. Tomorrow we will consider breathing experiences, breathing exercises, pranayamas in detail. Fine. Tomorrow at 5 a.m. we'll be waiting for you at the meadow to change your karma. At least we will make every effort. I thank you kindly.